In this 100th episode, we talk about public relations, but post-pandemic public relations. So what happened during the pandemic and what happened after. And for this 100th episode, my guest is David Tremblay, my partner. So welcome, David. I'm really happy that you're there sharing this 100th episode with me today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and congratulations. 100 episode is it's quite an accomplishment.
I know, it's crazy, huh? So thank you for joining me. And so for those who haven't listened to episode 10th and 85th, you can go back if you want. I find the episode 85th really interesting because this is where I'm talking with David. It's the third time he's my guest on the podcast. So episode 85, we talk about Canadian market versus US market because David has a lot of client for whom he manages public relations in this market, the US and the English Canadian market as well. So it's interesting to talk about what are the differences between those two markets. And also for those who wants to learn a little bit more about David, so you can listen to episode 10. And before we jump into this subject of what's different now, or is there anything new post-pandemic regarding public relations, I wanted to introduce you a little bit more. So David is really a public relation expert and highly sought for his knowledge in marketing combined to what's happening in social media. And I'm sure we'll be talking about what's new in social media at the end of this podcast. So thank you again for joining me. So what do you think? Do you think anything is different or any trends that are now that we have to live with now forever since the pandemic?
Well, forever, I don't know. We never will. We never will, right? Forever is, I don't know. But what really changed, I feel like that the clients are more legible, like they know more about what's happening on the web and what are the, direct result of PR. What I mean by that is basically if we do a campaign or like a media will post a link and people will click on the link, well, you'll see that they will see and they track how much traffic is directed to their website. And usually when we have like a big feature where like a digital or in print and everything, and then the day of, they see, oh, there was a huge spike in traffic on my website on that specific page for that product. Do you have something to do with that? That's kind of now our discussion that we have.
This is true because everything is traceable. So we can, Google Analytic, or they can go and look, and they even know what publication, where it's coming from, where the traffic is coming from. This is true, and everybody's obsessed since the pandemic by the web. And it's completely understandable because everything was closed. So for many of our clients, this is what saved them. And they realized that they could sell so much more online. Remember that?
It really accelerated the pace of everything, but also like the kind of entering the web in a more serious fun. So for some of our clients, some brands were not totally there, or their product listing was not up to date, or the inventory was not connected enough to the website. And I do feel that in the first few months of the pandemic, when, as you just mentioned, everything was closed, they needed to kind of make sure that everything was on point and connected, so at least they could sell and they could continue operating on an everyday basis.
Yeah, thanks to internet. So not everything died, so they could make sell. It's interesting too because it's not because they were so late. Some of them, because in some markets, it was not really well accepted that clients, let's say beauty brands, are sold in pharmacy. In some, depending on the country you're in, if the network is really through some, it could be a chain of store too. But anyway, so in this case, this client they were selling through pharmacies, and pharmacies didn't really like when our clients were selling products online. So some of them, they were there, they were really like discreet almost, like not even telling people they were selling online. But then when they had the chance to do it, and it's funny because now there's nobody that can stop them, which I good for them,
Exactly.
So they know now. And I I haven't spoke to many of them, so I know some of them are still increasing their online sales, but I know some other clients. There's another client of ours also that sold a lot online during the pandemic, but now that everything is reopened, they don't sell as much.
No, exactly. And hopefully this will be redirected to the real boutiques or the drugstores or the pharmacies. A good thing as well about that was that clients, brands were kind of more aware of what product really attracted people, right? They were, oh, we sold so many of this one and none of this, and so it was kind of a great, if you were doing things right, you could really kind of manage your inventory to, what's possible. I know the deliveries and everything was really something during the pandemic, but you could really manage, or at least know, oh, my clientele is really looking for that product, so maybe we should do something with that. So there was a lot of things that were happening during the pandemic in terms of realization. I feel people were really online as well, really at the time, let's say more time to kind of look into like the data and look at the traffic and what's happening on the web and etc. So I do feel that a lot of our brands, a lot of marketing manager clients, etc., really learn about, oh, what's the path of my clientele online? What's my consumer path? What doesn't work? Where people leave my website? Why? So there was a lot of discussion,
Yeah,
which
what's
we
their journey? Where are
exactly,
they
what's the
coming
journey,
from?
right?
Yeah.
And
Mm,
there was a lot of
mm, mm,
discussion during our calls, which were all video calls, obviously, but a lot of discussion about that. And there was definitely something about, oh, what can we do to, let's say, create affiliate link? What can we do to create those promo codes so we can really know and track and measure the success? And I'm using air quotes here, but like the success of that campaign.
Yeah, it's very interesting because some of them did understand how PR could really
Hmm.
help them because they were also doing, let's say, Facebook or AdWord campaigns, but they understood that having also PR could be a huge advantage. We have some clients who don't buy a lot online, a lot of advertising, and they really rely on PR. It also depends on the type of product. I find some products are very niche and they get a lot of traffic from what we are able to generate online. But so many things happened during the pandemic, and because of the web obsession, some of our clients did hire more online marketing, digital marketing agencies, and those young agencies sometimes wanted to, like, oh, let's take the budget of PR, let's get rid of them and use the what I call the PR budget. But it was interesting to see when we started looking where their traffic was coming from, because they finally understood, some of them, that the 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 best organic part of their marketing plan is performed by PR. Many of them didn't realize that, or some of them don't know. Probably it's not something they're being taught, and they don't understand sometimes how PR works. And many clients kept us in the loop, and yeah, it was interesting to see that they really, some of them did understand really well what PR could bring them.
Well, they totally, like, obviously they realize with the SEO or search engine optimization. Not not going to explain what
Yeah, for
SEO
those
is,
who don't
but
know. Yeah.
they kind of understood that, oh, well, there's a quality factor to the result. So our brand could go higher in the result on Google or any search engine, right? And it was what was really interesting, and they kind of understand. Oh, media kind of act like experts online. So if they do talk about us, well, Google will say, oh, we might, maybe some people will ask about it. So we might put this brand, higher in the results. So, and this is really a simplified version of what it is, but and but it's really what happened. And then when they saw that, oh, well, we had a huge spike of traffic, and then now our results are better when we type our name, we're there, or this product, it's us that will, you know and a good example is the PR agency that we are in, NATA PR. You've seen a huge, huge, huge impact on the web and podcasts. And I feel like, that's kind of how we work. We want to test drive everything. We want to make sure
Yes,
that,
new tools,
yeah,
new platforms, and the podcast is one of them. And it's an incredible, incredible tool. And I even did a podcast on the secret of podcasts. If you want
yeah,
to know more, if you scroll in the list, you'll find that one. And that really help us because it's organic,
yeah,
right? So what we're doing there is we create content every week. So this is the 100 podcast. It's a perfect example. And we do one in French, one in English every week. So it's the, my producer would say it's the 200 podcast you are recording because he's doing the montage. He's setting everything up. So for him, it's double the work. But it's interesting to see also that some clients did understand. Something I like to say is that publicity, we're not against publicity because sometimes we do Facebook campaigns as well. And it's publicity doesn't replace PR and PR doesn't replace publicity. So of course, in the best world, you do both. But sometimes if you don't have a lot of money, you can start by doing PR because something the advertising is not going to bring you is credibility. This is exactly what you mentioned. Like when you have a media talking about, a product, a
well, there's a,
client.
there's a type of expertise that comes with that, right? When another source, an exterior source, will talk about your brand in a good way, or it will definitely, oh wow, this is legit. Like this is legit. It's really what it is. And you had like I know an example of a client that came back to us because he was basically saying, oh, I know what you've done because I had no time to do any advertising or shit around social media or on the web. And I just did PR and the results were amazing.
Yeah. Sometimes, depending on the product, we can say what it is. Actually, it's a product to help. It's a natural product to help people sleep, and sleep. Problems of sleeping problems is huge. It's
COVID
huge.
anxiety.
Yeah, plus the COVID added another layer on this trend, and yeah, then he said, "Oh my God, I didn't even have time to do an ad campaign, and we were sold out." So this is like it doesn't happen every week. We would love that to happen every week, but sometimes it does. This is why it's interesting to at least depending on the product that you have, talk to a PR specialist or come to us. We'll tell you, if we can do something for you or no, keep doing publicity. We're not against it. Another client of ours, that's all they do. And they use their social media platform. They make a lot of sales. They're extremely successful selling their products, but they haven't built their credibility and their brand. So this is what we're trying to tell them. Put in an extra budget to, and you'll see with time, it takes time. So sometimes, some brands who really like created themselves, and which is great. And you can sell online and be like crazy rich, and which is, and nobody knows you. So but I find if you want to build something and you want a brand that's going to last in time, if you don't do PR ever, I think you're missing something. So, and we see brands do to make a lot of money and disappear. It happens like online. There are brands that existed online and for a certain period of time, and there's always a new one, a younger kid in his garage starting another company similar to yours, and let's say they are better, are charming their generations, and they're gonna eat you up and eat your market shares, right? We've seen this too.
Well, by listening to this podcast, let's hope that doesn't happen.
It happens. Well, it's not gonna happen to us.
Yeah.
Because we're always learning new things and doing new things, and sometimes we hang on to old things because we had this discussion a few years ago. This is interesting because know that PR is still so relevant, and we had that discussions a few times, you and I. Should we keep like the NATA PR public relations term there, or many younger agencies decided to become communication agencies, so they don't work exactly like we do. But I'm like, this is strange. I think PR is going to be there. As I say, media still exists. We'll see in 5 years, but
Well,
let's take
yeah,
advantage of it. They still exist,
exactly.
Let's, talk to them. Let's make our clients visible there, and let's get them featured online. And so, yeah.
And if we talk about public relation, well, and I've said that, and I'm sure that if you listener will listen to the 10th and the 85th podcast, Well, I'm going to say that again, that public relations is about relations, and that what we need after a pandemic, after isolation, after quarantining, it's definitely relations with people. So it's definitely even more relevant post pandemic than it was before, I feel on myself. But obviously, change have occurred, and now we're doing kind of a both. I would say, like, virtual and in person. It's definitely kind of a hybrid situation that we're living in, and I feel like now we're just trying to figure out, what's going to be, what's going to be over winning over the other. But today, to this day, right now, like if we're talking about changes, it's definitely like the amount of video calls that we have, the amount of virtual events that we have and still have to this day. Talking about a perspective of covering like North America, obviously some events are virtual, some events are in person, but virtual definitely gives that flexibility of journalists can be anywhere in the world and they can connect, right?
This is true.
Obviously, time
So
zone needs to
it's
be
not going to
relevant,
disappear.
but
It's not
that's
going to
no,
disappear.
exactly there because there's like an accessibility that we never had. Like, can you imagine doing one virtual event instead of doing five events, in-person events? I mean, it's quite a difference in terms of cost, in terms of budget, but also in terms of reaching out to people. Some people are remote and they just want to stay remote. They don't want to go downtown to go to the event, so they're just going to connect and
Yeah.
stream the event.
Yeah.
So that's definitely things that are changing and kind of our have evolved as well. Those they have evolved in terms of how we present things, how we how we manage event, how we produce event as well. Because now there's going to be a video component, so it's definitely something that kind of like evolve and like really revolutionize the PR world.
I agree with you, and it's funny because we are also doing live event now. So, and we taught we did a test. We told our clients, let's you can participate to this event. We'll pay for the whole the whole thing. So we don't want you to invest money in because we're doing a test. It's we don't know anymore what's going to happen. It was interesting to see who came, and probably this is something we should do. And I was talking to you in the French version of the podcast. I'm like, oh my God, maybe we should have also, we should keep virtual content. Let's say, for example, our event starts at 11. So maybe at 10 a.m., we should do a tour because we were presenting, those are multi-brand events that many agencies used to do in the past. So we decided to do one after more than 2 years and had been a while. So we didn't even think about that because first of all, we were so excited to do an event. I was excited to do an event and meet people live that I'm like, no, let's not do anything virtual. But maybe you're right. Maybe we should combine, have a part that's virtual. And then, for those, and you mentioned it too, that's another trend that we forget. It happened all over the world, like from people in Paris, New York, London, anywhere, big city, they decided to move out of the big cities and went outside they bought houses in a country house and, in a
A huge
country and
backyard, and it's definitely. And also, what is really interesting is like sometimes we'll think, oh well, if we do the virtual event before, no one's they're gonna come to the in person. I don't think that's true at all. I feel like some people really want to touch, where you want to, in the virtual thing. That what's different than when you meet for real is maybe you don't have the same kind of direct do you want to try this, do you want to touch that, do you want to even though we sent everything in virtual prior, it's definitely not the same kind of exchange that we have with them, and it's not as curated
no, and
as if
seeing a
it's a one-on-one.
collection,
Yeah,
and looking at it and understanding what it means. And you're right, the look and feel, even clothing, you want to touch
well, we
and
can
see.
definitely not send the whole collection to everyone who's connected online, because that would be like 50 to 60 collection to send. So that's definitely different for now. But yeah, let's say, the in-person event, that's where, they will see and touch and feel. So I do feel that, that both will kind of be always there, but in person will kind of gain popularity more and more again, because people want to see each other, people want to meet, people want to have drinks together, people. So and it's even for us, we were excited to do an event, and it's kind of the the proof
Interesting to
that
see
that will
also
happen.
influencers love to do
Yeah.
that too because they say, "Hey, here I'm going to they're going to be doing a reel, a video, a TikTok, whatever." And for them, it's content. We help them to create content because this is some of them do that every single day, so it's a big job, and these events also help them do that. So this will still exist for sure, but I agree with you. The virtual part is really something that we have to always keep in mind and not forget. Yeah. Regarding social media, what do you think is going to happen because it's changing so fast? Well, now we see TikTok more and more.
Well, we've seen the
Um,
rise of TikTok during the pandemic. Obviously, what do you have to do in your living room on a Saturday at 2 p.m. because you cannot go outside? Well, you're going to do some dance and then share them on TikTok, right? So that's definitely what happened. I feel like out of boredom, people just, went on that platform, which is really entertaining, really quick, really fast paced. And it's definitely the rise, like the pandemic has definitely been the rise of TikTok in, North America, that's for sure. I do feel that because people were so much on social media, they don't want to see something that is too curated. They don't want to see something that is too paused because, oh, what's the difference with you and this other person or etc. So that's where, Be Real, which is the new platform that, well, new. It's been there for a few weeks slash months now, but it's where Be Real is basically the answer to that kind of curated world is basically an app that will take both selfie and what surround you, so you cannot just have this beautiful corner in your house and the rest is not as curated, because people will see on Be Real. And it's also a notification you have to post now. So wherever you are, maybe you're at the grocery, maybe you're watching TV, or maybe you're at an event, right? But that's really what Be Real is all about. It's like maybe showing that, hey, oh yes, we were inside for 2 years, but people will still be the same. It's not that because you're an influencer, you're a media, or you're a VIP star that sometimes you don't go to the grocery, or you don't drive, or you don't sit in front.
yeah,
So
you're not
there's
always
definitely that.
always
Yeah,
super well dressed up and curated
exactly.
and wearing the perfect makeup, and yeah, that's for sure. That's interesting. So people are some. This is true. This is something I hear also among our young employees. Like sometimes they are tired to see those famous big influencers that are like it's always glitz and glam, as I say, and but of course it's not the reality all the time. It's impossible. You cannot live
Mhm.
like that all the time. So this, I think it's a good thing. I can't wait to see where it's going to go and how humans are going to.
The FOMO, like the fear of missing out, or again, there's something about like always following those beautiful accounts and everything really inspiring, but then it's the balance when the aspiration becomes, oh my god, I'm anxious, I'm not invited anywhere, I don't
You're
do, my
depressed
life is not
because
as
you're not.
glamorous, right? So it's I do feel that that's going to be great. Obviously we'll see how good it develops, but for now, we're gonna we're gonna go on TikTok and just look at all those videos for hours.
But yeah, it's not going to disappear, you said. So yeah, it's always fun to see what's going to happen and the new trends. So it's funny because during the pandemic, the paper book started to increase their sales, just went through the roof. So there's sometimes we don't know, we have surprises. So of course magazines and the traditional printed magazine, it's never going to be as it was, but there's something sometimes in the people want to be real and away from their screens maybe, right?
Exactly. Like leaving your screen alone for a bit and just, turning those paper, those pages of a magazine. It's definitely something nostalgic into that. And I feel like, it's also comforting to just read a magazine and not be, not receive all those notifications while you're reading something. Just, let it go a little. And that's
Your
okay too,
brain, let your
hmm
brain breathe, as I say.
Exactly.
So what can we wish you for the next, few weeks, few months, next year?
Well, vacations for now, time to relax, and also, kind of a beautiful balance between video calls or an in-person event. I do feel there's something really inspiring with meeting with people, but obviously the flexibility of the video calls allow us to do a little more. So it's kind of more of a balance between those two. I feel like that would definitely be a great way to jump into fall, which is
So I
coming.
wish you less online meetings and
Yeah,
video calls, right? We have too many.
exactly.
This is true. Probably because now our clients see us and it's reassuring for them. Probably it was reassuring in the pandemic, but it's something that's still there. So it has to diminish a little bit.
Yeah,
Fine.
it's kind of less online calls, more offline coffees.
Well, thank you for being my guest for this 100th
Thank you,
episode, David.
Natalie.
It's always a pleasure talking to you. And so you can listen to some other podcasts as well. This is the 100th, my friends. So hopefully you've enjoyed this little PR break and that we are inspiring you and you'll include PR in your marketing plan. And if you want to know more, of course, listen to our podcast and we'll be there next week. À la semaine prochaine. Hey, you want to learn more about how to implement PR strategies? Head on to natapr.com and get on our list. You will also receive the NATA PR model on how to create a successful PR campaign. If you want to become a client, just send us an email to nata@natapr.com. Talk to you next week. À la semaine prochaine.